Hello and welcome to another episode of Inspired Women Gathering Show. This is a show that talks about all things from life, relationships, spirituality, business, and everything in between. Women inspire me through their stories, their resilience, resourcefulness, tenacity, and the powerful movement that we make. I love connecting and having deep conversations, sharing with you the women I'm so blessed to know and who inspire me, especially as we navigate together through this deep unknowing. My name is Dixie Bennett. I'm your host, and I'm a soulful women and wealth coach and healer, and I created this platform to highlight amazing women who I come across and connect with. I know you will. I hope you'll enjoy them as much as I do. I am so excited to introduce you to my wonderful guest, Carissa Vescio, and her topic today is about body positivity. Carissa wants to inspire women to treat their bodies differently, to show their bodies the love and gratitude that it deserves. To help women experience this, she has opened a body-positive Pilates studio called Bird Pilates. It's a beautiful space in the southwest of Calgary, Alberta, and that honors women of all ages and sizes to help them see and feel their bodies in a new and loving way. She calls Pilates a happiness elixir, and as a kid, Carissa avoided sports-related activities, including hiding in the custodial closet to avoid gym class. Carissa would have never imagined that she would be a co-owner of a Pilates studio, especially because her relationship with her body and mind was a negative one. She's a kind, empathetic, and supportive teacher and believes that motivation is lotion for the body. She understands that a relationship with movement isn't an easy journey, and Pilates, along with Reiki, has saved her from the debilitating pain of stage 4 endometriosis. Pilates is a mindfulness practice that connects body, mind, and spirit, and it has many benefits, happiness being one of her favorites. So welcome, Carissa. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Dixie.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into Pilates? What was your awakening moment that shifted you into this new world of body awareness?
Sure. So I actually got into Pilates. It was a kind of hilarious and random situation. I was at drinking wine on a patio and eating carbs, which are also very favorite hobbies of mine. And I saw a sign, a literal sign that said Pilates studio. So I called and I went and took a couple of classes and didn't hate it. So that was a real bonus for me with any fitness endeavor. And then I noticed that when I missed a practice, I could really feel it in my body. And I could really feel it also like in my mind. And so I kept going and I kept sticking with it and just really fell in love with it. And it became something that I really got passionate about, and it made me feel really, really happy, and it made me feel really good. It helped a lot with physical pain. It also helped with anxiety and depression. And then I went to teacher's school, Pilates teacher school, and became a Pilates teacher myself, and then opened up my own little studio so that I can share my sort of passion with other people. And it's been really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm a huge fan. I'm one of Carissa's students as well. And, it really helped me through, I went through major surgery last year, and doing Pilates before the surgery, I think my recovery was huge because of it, and I promoted a lot. And actually, I want to tell a quick little story of how Carissa and I actually met. I was sitting in my office one day, and I was just thinking, oh, I want to connect with a reformer Pilates practitioner. And I'm like, I wonder who I know that does this. And lo and behold, I had a new client that came in. I couldn't wait to meet her, named Carissa. And at the end of our session, she's like, so I have something I want to offer you, and I'm just curious if you're interested. And she's like, I'm a Pilates teacher, and I'm just doing my certification, looking to take on students. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I call her my guardian angel, because she definitely came into my life at a very important time. And I think, just I believe in manifestation, working with the power of manifestation. And, I think a beautiful friendship has evolved through our working together as well. And, just the power of, I've always been really connected to my body, and working with working with Pilates. I used to do heavyweight lifting. I used to do a lot of things. So I do, and plus working with energy, I have a great awareness. And like Carissa said, when you said that in the beginning, you know, your body just started craving more. And I have to admit, out of all the therapies, all of the modalities that I have done in body work, body training, I have been craving more Pilates. Like I actually feel it. So that's been huge for me. So tell me a little bit more about, you know, what is it about the movements of Pilates that you resonate with?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's so many reasons why I love Pilates. I love the mind, body, spirit connection. I love that there is so many different exercises available. There's like over 500 exercises that we're taught in our classical teacher training, and there's so much apparatus and equipment. So it can be a really supportive, restorative experience, and it could be a really intense and athletic experience. And so what I love is that depending on how you're feeling and what you need, you can really adapt it to what your client and what your own body needs, like on any given day, because each day is different for everybody. And not just within our bodies, but in our minds and our spirits. And it's an amazing tool to be able to know how to adapt a program to sort of accommodate how you're feeling that day, or what your body's needing that day. And so I love the versatility and flexibility of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
I love the breath work. I love being able to connect to my body and mind and spirit through the breath. And I absolutely can't say enough things about springs. I love the springs. I love everything to do with the springs. It's just really fun to put your feet in springs and your hands in springs, and it really brings out the spirit of like being a little kid at a playground, and like that feeling of that joyfulness and like whimsy of being able to just play. And I love that. And that really aligns with like the Happiness Elixr part, where it really does feel like you're a kid in a playground, and you get to play on equipment, and you get to, you know, you can go upside down and you can go on your side. And like, it really brings that joy that I think I was missing. I don't think I really realized that I was missing that part of myself until I started practicing the Pilates regularly. And I love that whimsy and like the happiness more than anything else, for sure. It just feels fun. It feels good. And so I just want to share that with people. And yeah, hopefully when all this COVID-19 stuff is over, then people will come and try it. And I give everyone a free trial, like just come and try it and see if you like it. And if you don't, that's totally cool. But I definitely think it's worth a try, for sure.
Absolutely. I've always been intrigued by it. I actually did some research looking at the creator of it and how Pilates came about. And I'm sorry, I forget his name.
Joseph Pilates.
Yes, Joseph Pilates.
I call him JP for short.
JP, yeah. And why don't you share a little bit more about the story? I just found it so fascinating where he came from and how it was created. Yeah.
It is a really interesting story. So Pilates, the modality, has been around for 100 years this year, which is really cool. So we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary. Joseph Pilates actually created a lot of his exercises when he was in a World War II internment camp. And as a way to keep the spirits up from the people that were in the camp with him, he started moving their bodies together. And he actually was able to prevent them from getting a lot of illnesses that were occurring for like all the other people in the other areas. And I think just that mind body connection, the breath and the movement really helped stave off some of the illnesses, because just I think also the breath work too, and like the creating just a more positive environment, I think, for the people that were with him. And then he ended up meeting his wife Clara on a ship over to America, and they were together ever since. And they opened up a Pilates studio in New York. So the sort of what we've heard in our training is that JP was like the person that created all the exercises, like the visionary, but Clara really was the heart. So she really was the teacher and the sort of she sort of guided people through the Pilates practice in a more gentle and loving way.
Mm-hmm.
And JP was sort of the more like exercise and creator, and he created all the apparatuses as well, which is really cool. And you can see all of the different apparatus. What am I trying to say? Not the permits, but like do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well,
the actual creation of it.
Yeah, I read something about the springs, like all the springs were made from bed springs, and the magic circle was made out of a keg.
From
the keg, and I just
all the stuff that he had on hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's even the stuff that is created today is still replication of all the pieces that he found that were readily available to be used, right?
Yeah. Like the Cadillac that we use often is based on a bed. Like the height of it and the width of it and stuff is based on a single bed. So yeah, he was really creative and really used stuff that was available. It's amazing. 100 years later, it's still
innovation, right? So the innovation of taking what's readily available, but then using it and repurposing it in a different way.
Yeah,
and the simplicity of it. And that's what I mean. That's one of the things I love about Pilates is it's just the simplicity of just really connecting into your body just in a different way.
I agree. Yeah, it's nice. And 100 years is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's an opportunity to celebrate that for sure. So anything that you guys are doing special to celebrate for the 100 years?
Well, I know that online and especially on Instagram, there is like lots of classes that are available. But I don't think we have an organization called the PMA, the Pilates Method Alliance. And they have a big event every year. So I suspect that at that event, there'll be like a large celebration with all of the other instructors. You'll notice, you could see them all in tights. No zippers for those gals.
So would you say that there was a person who inspired you or helped you kind of along this way to start turning it into your own practice? Or even turning it into your own studio?
Well, I knew that I always wanted to be a small business owner, but I didn't know exactly what kind of business I wanted to get into, but that had been in the back of my mind for like the past 20 years. That I wanted to sort of try my hand at a small business. And I just felt that I kind of had that calling. And I just always wanted to work for myself. And I just like kind of knew that it would be nice not to have to like report it to someone. But it's not as easy as you think it is going to be. But I think as far as the Pilates practice and like that being the small business, I think the reason why that all happened was because it was sort of a really important catalyst in my own health journey. And I think what motivated me the most was the fact that with regular movement practice, I started feeling a lot better physically and especially mentally. And then I felt like if I can feel this good, then I'd love to share it with other people and inspire them to feel as good as well. Because I had tried a lot of like sort of traditional things, a lot of different prescriptions and things of that nature, which just didn't help me. But I think that a combination of like movement and spirituality and all of the sort of modalities that you offer, along with, probably some prescriptions and stuff, but you need like a very well-rounded. I think I learned that the hard way, is that you need like a little bit of everything on your wellness journey. And so I think Pilates helped me shed some light on that, especially on the movement part, because I wasn't really a huge mover before. And so I think that was a big motivation, just is feeling better overall. Definitely.
And do you have any mentors or anyone who's helped you along the way, who's inspired you?
Well, my very first teacher named Shizuko, my very first Pilates teacher, is a huge inspiration to me. And she teaches here in Calgary as well at a whole bunch of different studios. And what I really loved about Shizuko is that she never taught me with, I feel like sometimes I've gone to fitness classes before, not necessarily Pilates, but where they taught me with a judgment of, here's a woman in a bigger body. And so maybe we won't push her as much, or they assume that my body can't move in certain ways. And Shizuko never did that. And she always just, it's like she never noticed the size of the body. It didn't play a part in how she taught. And I think that was a really huge and really important thing for me. So if I had a different teacher, I don't know, like, would I have fallen in love with Pilates as much? I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. So definitely owe a lot of this journey to Shizuko for sure.
Powerful. Well, and I think there's a time and a space when things actually happen and everything aligns. We get the right teacher, the right inspiration. You know, you just happen to be sitting there drinking that glass of wine and notice the sign, and you follow the sign, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes
literally.
and when we're ready, the teacher comes, right? And I found that's kind of how you and I met as well. Is I was ready for my teacher, and here you come. So I believe we just have to listen in and take inspired action when it happens. And so tell me a bit more about body positivity. So what does body positivity mean to you? And how do you integrate that into your life and your practice?
Yes. So this one's I have to take us back a little bit before we get right into body positivity, just to sort of explain a little bit about where I've come from in my journey to accept myself for exactly what my body looks like today. So as a kid, like, I was a teenager in the 90s. And so what was really beautiful to society then was really, really skinny, like heroin chic. So, and I've always had the curvy figure. And so right from, I think, that point on, like right from puberty, you know, having a really curvy body and seeing in the magazines that idea of beauty really messed with my self-esteem, to the point where I had an eating disorder for many years, and I just hated myself, hated my body. I really, really lots of negative self-talk because I just happened to have a bigger body. And then fast forward like 20 years later, and I found out I wasn't able to have kids. I wasn't able to get pregnant. And so I hated my body to like a new extreme after that. And so it was quite a journey, and a long one, to go from like an absolute hate and disgust about my body to being accepting of it. Some days it's like a real positive day, but other days, I have to say, are more neutral. So I think maybe it's body acceptance more than body positivity, but I'm working towards the positivity personally. But I think especially too, as we age, I know I'm right at the perimenopausal point in my life. So also like learning to accept it and love it while changes are happening every day. Like, and just wanting to support women through that journey in a really understanding way. Having had, you know, the eating disorder and the infertility, and just generally not ever being the size that society has deemed beautiful, has been a struggle as well. I think now with artists like Lizzo, I'm hoping that things are different for our next generation of girls. Things are looking like they are changing, which is really good. But I just wanted to open a space that was really like, I don't care what size you are or what you look like or what age you are, even what gender you identify with, like just a really open and supportive space where we can move together, not because we want to lose 10 pounds, but because we want to feel good and we want to just be happy as our goal. Like, our goal at the studio is just to move and feel good, regardless of, you know, what we ate today or what we might eat later or any of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that, to just, you know, being in movement together. That's what I love. I love being in movement together. What would you say is a daily routine that helps you keep your focus and your vibrations high?
That's a really, really good question. And I don't know about you, Dixie, but I've been finding it really hard to keep with a regular routine during this new world of ours. But for me, I've gotten to the point in my relationship with movement where if I don't move, and I'm not even talking Pilates specifically, but even just getting out and taking our little dog for a walk, even around the block, my mind starts getting what I like to call a monkey mind. And I start getting sort of an unsettled feeling, and my anxiety sort of starts to rise. And so for me, movement and happiness is tied in with like mental health as well. So movement really helps me manage my anxiety and my depression without having to have to take medication, which for me is really important. And so if I don't move, I don't feel good. And I've gotten to that point, which is really awesome. So if I don't move for a couple of days, I can feel it, and I want to move just so I can feel better. But it took me a really long time to get to this point, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I just would like to just say, like, be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself, and treat yourself and your body like you would treat your friend. Because I know we don't do that as women. We tend to get really, really, really deep in the negative self-talk when it's us talking about our own selves and bodies, or even looking in the mirror. But just think, like, would I talk to my best friend like this? And try to filter some of that. That's like the first step, I think, is treat yourself like you'd treat someone else, with love and kindness. And patience.
And patience, yes, that's so huge. I noticed even this morning I just felt so stagnant in my condo. I just need to open all the windows. So I just opened all, even though it's like snowing and blizzarding out there. It's not, it's raining and doing whatever. But I just needed all that gust of fresh air just to come through. And even though it's a little bit chilly, I just kept all the windows open just for a little while, just to get that movement of that energy in the space.
Exactly.
But yeah, I have my rebounder set up. So I have my rebounder, and then I've been doing some of my own Pilates movements in my day-to-day practice at home. And just getting outside and just being in nature, I think, is a huge, just getting that, just being around the trees and just moving your body outside, I think, is really powerful. So really important, especially right now. And I know that you've gone through a major transition to leaving, right? Kind of stepping away from your corporate job, and stepping into your own business. And that's, it's a lot of the people that I'm talking with or connected to often have one foot in one and in the other. And then when you make that jump, there's definitely a lot. I know I went through a lot of things. So how have you been kind of navigating going through from one world to the other? Because again, it's that corporate, delivery, fast-paced environment to, moving into something that's a little bit more zenful, a little bit more serene. I know I always love coming to your space because it always feels so amazing and gentle. And it's just like, so beautiful when you walk in there.
Thank you. I do love that space. That's a really good question. And I do have sort of one foot on either side, which is really fascinating. From a balance perspective, because that's always something too that I've always been working towards. It's never come naturally to me. What I think is really fascinating, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but it's like we have the two sides of ourselves. We have our masculine and our feminine. And I think what opening the studio has done for me, and just following my passion in Pilates, has really helped me get in touch with my feminine side and get in touch with that really caring, empathetic, supportive part of me that I don't corporate didn't really support or inspire in any way. But I definitely still love like a good deadline, and my masculine side is still, I think, pretty in tune, because I am like sort of 50-50 right now. But I definitely like the studio, spending time in the studio, and I do manifest that one day that will be like a full-time situation. But right now I feel really grateful to have the opportunity to do some corporate work just to sort of help keep the business afloat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun because it really is like putting on two different hats, right? Like you go to one place and you've got like your blazers on and your like business Carissa, and then, you know, the afternoon you have some students at the studio and you've got your tights on and you're like Pilates teacher Carissa. And so it's been really funny and hilarious and interesting, I think. And I've changed in my car a lot more than I'd like to admit. But it's been a cool and fun experience for sure. It's been very different.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think the Pilates teacher Carissa is a lot more who I am, who I have always been in my personal life. Mm-hmm. And so it's really kind of neat to see and to like sort of search out a career in which I can be who I truly am supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of like having like actually seeing that in front of my own face, like seeing how, oh, okay, that makes sense.
I think it's the becoming, it's the allowing of yourself to be, well, it's just allowing yourself to be in that space of who am I in a supportive role versus the doing role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's that, you know, because you're very good. I really enjoy you as a teacher, and just very encouraging and very, very supportive. I'm very gentle, like you're not aggressive. And even just some of the stuff, you know, a lot of stuff we've done post-surgery too has been very restorative. But it's also been really empowering to see the different stages of where my body can be pushed even more.
Yeah.
And with that, it's not about forcing. It's just about being present too, and being in that supportive, restorative phase to the point where now the body's asking for more and being able to listen to that. I think instead of just pushing through. And I know in past, it was always about pushing. And sometimes, you know, I'd push myself to the point where I just couldn't even, you know, you just go hard to the point where you just couldn't even walk to the car after, you know, and that the burn feels good. But I even found sometimes that the healing time took longer, and I haven't experienced that with Pilates at all. In fact, every time I go, and even when I just do some of my own stuff at home, it's like my body wants to go more. And so I'm following my body instead of pushing my body. It's a very different experience.
Yes. And I think that's exactly how JP created it to be. And that's why there's so many different exercises that you can take your body as far as it can possibly go. But the whole premise behind it is that it's a lifelong practice. So we don't need to rush because we don't want to get injured, first of all. And just that, like that listening to your body, like you said, is really, that's that mind body connection, which really starts with the breath. So yeah, I think it's working, Dixie.
I concur. Awesome. It is totally working. I really enjoy it. I mean, it's something, you know, I like yoga. I like everything. I mean, there's really nothing I haven't tried, but there's just something different about Pilates that, like I can't even really name it. I mean, I love some of the poses, obviously. There's a Wonder Woman pose, well, we've called it the Wonder Woman pose. So it creates the sense of flying, which has always been one of my things. You know, I just love the sense of flying and that freedom. And so I think it's the freedom in your body. And the excitement of I'm doing something and I want to move and my body's moving in a way that, you know, I didn't even maybe know was possible. You know, it's just, there's openness, there's expansiveness, and there's this gentle but deep work at the same time, right? So it's not about outward, it's not about output. To me, it's almost like input, where you're just being present to what you're doing and just filling it up from the inside out and being very purposeful in each one of the workouts.
That's an excellent description of the like Pilates experience. And I think that's why sometimes it's very hard to put it into words, although you did an amazing job. But it's something that I think you have to really feel and then kind of go from there. I think too, that's one of the reasons why I took to Pilates, is because it is a very personal and it is very like internal rather than external. And certainly my experience with like sports in school was very like team sport orientated, and I just didn't take to any of that stuff. I love the fact that we're all on our own journeys, and we can all practice and take it as far as we need to, and switch it up every day, like, and really accommodate how we're feeling on that particular day. So I, like I said earlier, that's, I think, the thing that I loved the most about it, that team sports was not a winning like feeling for me at all. No. Because it was also very competitive too, right? And very like you're comparing yourself. And so that was like my first experiences with fitness were in like team sports setting. And I was just like, oh no, I hate this. This is awful.
So I know, especially being in this new time that we're in, where, you know, businesses have changed. How have you kind of shifted your focus, or what are you focusing on in your business, or what, have you implemented anything different than what you were doing before?
Well, I know, so a lot of the different sort of like bar and yoga studios have taken their classes online. So that is, I think, is something that a lot of fitness studios are doing. I have not done that because we were so new that we didn't have a super huge base of clients to really take it online. But I'm really looking at this experience as an opportunity to really spend a lot of time crafting a really solid marketing plan. So really taking the time to really look at all of our different social media channels and traditional channels, and put together a really kick-ass marketing plan, so that when this is all over, we will be like out and about in our neighborhood and targeting like our real specific audiences. So I think that way I'm using the time from a business perspective to really get strategic about our message and our target audience, because it was sort of rushed. I think anyone that opens a small business, kind of, there's so much going on, like with like leases and equipment and sort of all the day-to-day stuff, that we did some marketing, but it wasn't as strategic definitely as it could be. It was a little bit like, we should be doing this, so let's do it. So yeah, so I'm taking, so that in that way, I'm really using that time to really get to know who we should be talking to and how, and then executing that. So when this is all over, we'll be in market with the right message, talking to the right people.
Powerful.
Also looking at that are cost effective as well.
Absolutely. Well, and I like that the challenge for you definitely was that you're a startup business, and you know, if you can survive this, you'll survive anything. And I think too, you know, there's so much opportunity in these experiences. You know, my business is 10 years old, and I've been through lots of, I would say it was just like, there's been lots of up and downs, and like coasting, and then, you know, and sometimes it doesn't even have to do with the market. I've noticed in my practice, sometimes I've had amazing years and months when the months were really, you know, like, you know, lots of layoffs, or, you know, Calgary market has been very interesting too. And I would even say, like, with the recession in Calgary, I personally didn't really feel it in my practice until last year. Probably even in the fall, more so in the fall of last year was when I really started to feel it. And then here we are, you know, and nobody's working, you know, it's like not from your own choice. It's just, this is the way the world's going, and we just have to kind of roll with it. But I think too, you know, if it's meant to be in alignment, if you're meant to do this work, which it sounds to me, I think you've gotten that. I mean, I call it spirit. The spirit gave me the marching orders to do this work. It wasn't something that I just said, oh, I think I'm going to go and change careers today. You know, for me, it was definitely the journey of, you know, this is something that needs to be seen in the world. And, you know, especially now coming from a place of service in health and wellness, there's going to be a great need for that moving forward in whatever capacity it is. So I do think that there's lots and lots of opportunity that will come out of this for sure.
Yeah. I think too, like attitude is everything, right? So like if we're going to make to make it through, you've got to be positive and you've got to manifest, like, as I believe in manifestation as well. And really look at it as an opportunity. You know, some days are a lot easier to see the opportunities than others, for sure. But if you try to, you know, wake up in the morning and say, okay, like, what am I supposed to be learning? Like, why, like, what can I take away from this experience? Like, what is the gift here that I'm supposed to be learning? Definitely, like, having the opportunity to be still is pretty awesome. Like, as a person that came from a 20-year corporate career, having time to, like, sit down and think, like, about the small business has been really nice, you know, not just go. So I think in that way, there's a lot of gift and gratitude in this experience and opportunity. But I do understand, like, some days are like, it doesn't seem that way, but if you can kind of get yourself back to that mindset, I think we're all going to come out of this in just really great shape.
I agree.
And the world needs us. The world needs us positive people to stay positive, right? And to stay in our, like, supportive healing modes, for sure.
So what are some of the things that you do more specifically for mindset? Like, how, especially when you're having those highs and lows, what do you do for yourself to get yourself back up?
That's a good question. And certainly, like, I've had a lot more lows since the COVID-19 situation, just because I'm a bit of a control freak. So I have to be really honest about that with myself. So to not have a regular schedule really kind of, like, threw me for a loop. And to not be able to control the outcome of this, it's really pissed me off, to be quite honest. So I've had to really get back to the basics of, like, I really, like, mindfulness meditation really works wonders for me, to be able to, like, breathe and just, like, settle down my monkey mind has been really good. I also really love Reiki. Like, I do Reiki on myself as well as on my hubby and my pets and on close friends, as you know. But so that's been really good. So I've been trying to start the day with a little bit of movement and then end the day with some meditation or Reiki, so that I have almost like a bookend to the day. And that's been helping, because I was getting pretty unraveled there until I kind of figured out a routine that was going to help. But I really was feeling unraveled for a bit until I figured out a routine that worked for me, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it is about finding new routines. I'm a huge fan of, you know, we don't need to have heavy structure, but still having like even just a basic, you know, getting back to a basic schedule of some kind. You know, I think there is a time where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm on holidays. I don't know what to do with this, you know, and then there comes a time where it's like, okay, well, you know, maybe living in your pajamas every day is not acceptable.
Yeah. It's nice for a few days, though, I gotta admit. But
I think so. You know, I think you have to give yourself that space to make the shift, you know, because it is different and things have to be different. But yeah, I think it's definitely, it's an interesting time. And, you know, I have highs and lows too every day. You know, even just yesterday, I hit a wall where I just needed to nap in the afternoon for like 2 hours. I mean, my schedule hasn't changed too much yet. I've been pretty busy with a lot of other things, but and I'm a make work. Like, I love creating projects. So for me, I'm always focused on something that's inspiring or bringing new attention or new energy into something too. So what are some things that you like to do to fill up your love cup? So how do you support yourself?
That's a good one. Well, today is National Hug a Dog Day. I don't know if you know that.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, so just a random fact for you. I really love snuggling with my pets, Ray Ray and Chewy. We have this morning routine where I'll have my cup of coffee and they'll come on my lap and they'll snuggle, and we have like a really quiet snuggle for like 30 minutes. And I don't know, it probably sounds kooky and cheesy, but like that, just like the energy of like, it's just lovely. It just starts my day so nicely. So certainly, like, the connection to my pets is really big for me. And I just love their love and can't get enough of it. And I think they have that personality too, where they're really lovey and snuggly as pets. It's definitely movement is my way of self-love and self-appreciation. So getting out and going for a walk or doing a little bit of Pilates, and I love, love, love food. So preparing meals, eating meals, ordering meals, lots of, a lot of love for food over here. So food's a big part of it too. Yeah. So
The
I think
Italian
food,
love.
yeah, yeah, it's deep love. So I think food and movement and snuggles with my family are what kind of keep me going for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can you share any books or any insights that, or any inspiration that you draw upon?
There's a book that I've recently read that I really liked, which ties in really nicely to body positivity or body acceptance, and that's called Intuitive Eating. And it's written by a nutritionist and a scientist, and they're really talking about how once you kind of understand that we've been prescribing to diet culture for all of our lives, you can, if you can confidently get off the diet culture cycle, you can actually trust your body to let you know when it is full. And you could also trust your body to be able to snack when it wants to, and to be able to, like, when your body's craving something, there's a scientific reason why it's craving it, to like, so to not say, no, that's bad, and to just have a real, much more open and accepting relationship with food, which I was fascinated about. And of course, as a food lover, I'm like, yes. So I've been giving that a whirl for sure, but it's hard because I've prescribed to like probably every diet possible, but like even just like saying to myself, my mind will immediately go to Weight Watchers points, because I was on Weight Watchers like on and off for like almost 10 years, right? To be like, oh, I can't have that Girl Guide cookie because it's like, it's 5 points, but it's like, who cares how many points it is? Like, just eat it if you want it, right? And like actually allowing yourselves just the flexibility to do that without caring if it's like a bad food. And so that's been interesting. I'm very early on in the journey, so I'll have to report back on how it's going. But I love the idea of intuitive eating. It really sings to my heart. So I'd like to be able to get on that side of my relationship with food for sure.
Well, and it feels like a really nice balance with Pilates too, because to me, Pilates is a bit intuitive movement as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I've gotten myself to a really good place personally with the movement side of things. I'm trying to get myself to that same place with my relationship with food. Yeah.
I think it's a journey. It's a journey for everybody. I don't think anyone's nailed it quite down. I know I've bounced around too, and I've done veganism and vegetarianism to, back to meat eating, and I really follow. I have a better relationship too, where I just follow what feels good, and how does it feel? Do I feel satiated? And I've tried metabolic balance. Actually, my biggest success has been through metabolic balance, which is more of a intermittent fast and reset for your metabolism. And I think it's really important to find, because what works for one person doesn't necessarily isn't going to work for another person. And it's just, again, it's finding that, following the intuition of really feeling into what does work for you, what hydrates you, what nourishes you, what energizes you, what takes your energy away. I think we need that time to really listen more intuitively to our body.
Yeah, I think that, and I guess that would be everyone's like wellness goal, right? Is to feel good and feel happy and be connected enough to like listen to what their body needs, physically and mentally and spiritually. So yeah,
absolutely.
So that's the goal. Well, how I'm doing. It's a life project here, I think.
It's a life project, yeah, and it's that's, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, and you got to try things on. I would say try it on, and if it feels good, do it, and if it doesn't, don't do it.
Exactly. I totally agree. I think that's an awesome way to just live life in general, right?
Absolutely. And do you have any quotes that you kind of live your life by?
Quotes. Not off the top of my head. No. Do you have one? Tell us one, Dixie.
Oh, I have so many. Life is a journey,
Yeah, that's true.
right? It's even just some of the ones that have from other episodes that I've recorded, just be happy. It's just coming back from
Mm.
the simplest things of um, living life to its fullest. I find so many people I talk to are always seeking for more joy. How do I bring more joy into my life, Dixie? How do I bring more happiness into my life, Dixie? As quite often the conversation. And to me, it's just life is a journey, and it's meant to be expressed one step at a time. So
Hmm.
it's when we're trying to live too much in the future where we get tripped up. And I
Well,
think
it's
this
really
is a
stressful.
huge testament to where we're living in this world right now is,
Mm.
all we can do is just take one day at a time, one step at a time. There's no forcing, rushing, strategizing, trying to make things happen. We're all in the same, our boat is docked, and
Oh, I like that.
we're
Mm.
just, we're sitting in the water. So make the best of it.
Mm. I do have one that just popped in my head. I think something that I've been saying to myself for, I think since I was a teenager, is life is hilarious.
Life
And
is
because like,
hilarious.
yeah, and I think if you really got to keep your sense of humor about it all, because
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's just, there's, there's just, it's a funny time. And yeah, I think just keep a sense of humor, keep, try to be positive. But yeah, I do like to look at things with like like a bit of a sense of humor for sure. It has always kept me, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think a bit afloat, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't try to take things too seriously.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
Well, I
think it's
think
great
that's
if
the lesson too. It's I'm a control freak too. I like to control things and know where things are going.
you.
But I've also learned there's been a deep unlearning in that I've found over the last, well, even since running a business. When you think it's
Yeah.
going one way and it zags another way, or and life happens. Life happens to there's a wrench thrown in the into things that your whole life comes to a stop, and you have to kind of reevaluate. So have you ever had an experience in your life where everything had came to a head, like came to a stop
Oh
before?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 2008, I was working in Ontario, and I was working for an advertising agency. And my client happened to be General Motors.
Mm,
And then the economic downturn happened.
right.
And so I was the account manager for General Motors Pontiac division, and Pontiac ceased to exist.
Mhm.
And so I definitely had a bit of an unravel at that point as well, because I had put everything into my career, like everything. It was like
Right.
my end all and be all. I had a 10-year plan on my fridge, Dixie, with like
Right.
specific like career goals I was going to meet. And so I
Wow.
was not mentally, nor was I financially prepared for that hit. So I had the unfortunate experience of being in my early 30s and having to move back to my hometown and live in my parents' basement,
Wow.
which was terrible.
Mhm.
Um, but like really, really hard on my ego for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but the cool thing about that was that my parents and I got to get to know each other as adults, and we
Mhm.
really were able to like build a new relationship, and a healthier relationship, which was really good. And then I did end up finding a job in the town I grew up in, and I stayed there for about a year, and
Right.
then ended up finding my way to Calgary. But yeah, that 2008 to probably 2009, there was like a 12-month period in there where it was like a very not like shitty time, if I can say that
Mhm.
on Zoom.
Mhm.
Can I say the word
Mhm.
shitty? It was a shitty time.
Okay.
But it was a good time for learning and growth,
Yeah.
because I find like the at the darkest times are the times where like you're gonna rise up, right? And that's where the real learning is. That's at least
Mhm.
my experience. That's how I look at those times
Mhm.
for sure. And I think the entire universe is like at that place right now with this. It's the dark time. I won't use the
Mhm.
other word, but it's the
Yeah,
time
no,
of
it
learning and
is.
growth, right?
It's the dark night of the soul, like where we're being called to really look in and evaluate where we're going, what we're doing, how we're participating, how we're showing up. Are we living in alignment? Are we not living in alignment?
Mhm.
There's all those things are questions to be asking right now. And I think that's when we're called to reset, that's exactly, I've had similar experiences where, I've had the opportunity to go back home and heal my relationship with my family, going home as an adult, to even just, just it's when life happens, there are safe places that we can go to, and it does feel humiliating sometimes because it's like, why, how did I get here? And I think
Yeah.
too, what's going on in the world, there's not a lot of control because there are people who are working, there are people who are being very prosperous in this time, and then there are those who are deeply suffering. And so,
Mhm.
and I think there's always those cycles in our life where nobody is ever in the same place with each other at the same time. We're always
Mhm.
going through different levels of growth and different levels of resetting and being quiet and going into more introspective space. And I think this is really what this time is about, is just being deeply, much more introspective, and reflective with yourself. So, and I do hope that we all emerge stronger, and just like anything else, we've survived the floods. I think about my own time, where I've lived through a fire, my condo burnt down, I lived through a flood,
Oh my gosh.
um, lived through major surgery, I had to shut my life down to, changing careers and restarting. And I've restarted my career 4 times now, but you always take the lessons that you learned with you going through. And it's just, I think, in uncharted territory, you just learn to navigate and lean back and trust a little bit more.
Mhm. Yeah. I like that. Lean back and trust a little more. That's perfect.
So do you have any other advice or anything else you'd like to share?
Mm, I don't think so. I think I just hope that your viewers and listeners are just trying to stay as positive and as, I guess, grateful as possible, and kind of trying to go back to the lesson. Like, everyone will have a different lesson, of course, but like, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to be learning right now in this space and in this time, I think is a good way to look at it. That's been helping me
So
keep it
what is
together.
your lesson that you're learning right now?
Definitely back to, like, you cannot control everything. Especially having just opened up a small business. It's
Mm-hmm.
really like you're really relinquishing the control,
Mm-hmm.
and trusting, right? Trusting that it's going to work out has been really, that's the lesson. And to really just try to sit in that space and be like, I trust that it's going to work out, even though I cannot control any of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think trust is always the biggest thing to, I mean, it's a lifelong lesson of really deepening into trust and trusting everything's happening for a reason, but also trusting that you're exactly where you're supposed to be in this moment.
Hmm. Even if you don't
Well,
want to be in that space.
well, I trust that, thank you so much for being here today, Carissa, and sharing your heart and your joy. And I so adore you and appreciate you. And you can connect with Carissa. I'm going to drop her link in the bottom of the show notes after. And, again, I adore you, and I just love our time together. I always love our conversations. So to our
Me
viewers,
too.
thanks for watching, and I hope you find some value. And again, I'd love to invite you to continue the conversation. Post in the comments below what inspired you or what your takeaway was. And please share it out to your community so that we can continue to bring hope, light, and love to the world. Until next time, abundant love. Thank you.